Audio check, audio check. Awesome. Good evening, Alex. We'll be getting started here shortly. Good evening, GoFAST. Well, we've gotten the first race out of the way. We had our fun. It's now time to settle in as it is go time for the championship. Prieto has come out swinging in round number 1 and has said, I am not going to just lie down, roll over, and give this championship to somebody who may want it or would surely like to have it. Prieto is going to be looking for the one-time double for the championship. It would be a first-time double with the championship, but it does not mean that it's impossible. Speaking of, where is our beloved Prieto? Don't quite see him in the session yet. Do see the teammate of Ouroboros with a practice pit stop. But I do expect that we would see Prieto in shortly. Very eager, everyone, to get out and get some final practice laps here at Hungaroring. A bit of a different track for us on the GoFAST schedule. Not one that we typically go to, or at least haven't gone to in my tenure here with GoFAST Racing. It's definitely going to be a learning curve for a few. Not that the drivers haven't driven the track before, but maybe haven't raced it with this group of talent. Again, GoFAST Racing, the fastest league on console. Pushing record numbers, 50 drivers took the green flag last week at Circuit of the Americas. We'll see if we get close to that number again tonight. We are just about to get over 40. Still plenty of time for people to join the practice session. But we are looking to set records this season, trailblaze as we continue on, as we did in Season 4. Slapshot still looking for the redemption. Currently setting the fastest time in free practice in the McLaren. Again, from a somewhat dominant run in Season 3, or Season 4, I should say. Consistent top 10s, consistent finishes, well up the order. Just hasn't been so far, at least through the latter half of Season 4. Season 3 did see some good results. Season 4, not quite so much, not a dominant showing. Right now, it is a Slap Your Mom Racing 1-2. It is just free practice, so not quite indicative of the pace that we would see in qualifying. And the competition very likely to be fierce here at Hungaroring. It has plenty of overtaking opportunities, still looking for our reigning champion of Prieto to join the session. But plenty more overtaking opportunities than other tracks. You have overtaking opportunities at turn 1, same thing for turn 2. Same thing for turns 3 and 4. Turn 5, you can get a nose up the inside and kind of force your way around, force the car that you are trying to overtake around the outside. Turn 6 and 7, the tight chicane, you can cut it back and maybe have an opportunity there. Same thing with turn 9, although it's a bit less likely. Turn 11, very possible you can set up a run into turn 12, and then turns 13 and 14, double hairpin switchbacks. You can have the situation of car on the inside has the outside, car on the outside has the inside for the next corner. So plenty of room for positions to be gone up or down. Plenty of room for argy-bargy. Plenty of elbows expected to be out tonight. Closing in, Brute in the Aston Martin, not far behind our current top time setter of Slapshot. Still awaiting the presence of our reigning champion. Would not expect him to miss a race, that is for sure. Maybe he doesn't feel so confident here at Hungaroring. There are races that are dropped. Slapshot just ahead. Not sure he's still on a valid lap. And only about half of our grid so far having set laps in general. See if it's any improvement from Slap on this lap first into the 43s. No, it will not be. Let's go on board with a lap with Slap. Ormston in the Mustang goes fastest first into the 43s. Well, possibly Brute went into the 43s first. Those two not far away from each other. So a bit more work to do. Ormston again looking for a return to form. Season 3 champion did not have quite the season in Season 4. See if we get a bit of a retribution run here in Season 5. That will have taken some time out of Slapshot's lap there. That was the number 63 Mustang of Lynch with Joyride Racing taking a bit of a spill at turn 11. We'll see if this was any improvement for Slap though. I don't think it was. It was a minor improvement, not quite into the 43s. Actually, no, he may just barely be into the 43s. We'll check the live timing. And if you would like to view the live timing in the chat, if you were just watching, not racing tonight, you can use !timing to check out the live timing session. Just go to GFR Race in the drop-down, and you will be able to find the live timing for our session, both practice, or all three practice, qualifying, and race sessions. Your mom, at least in practice, showing to be fairly competitive with the pace. Quicker than Ormston. Definitely showing right before competition is the Slap Your Mom racing team. I believe it would be very handy for the Slap Your Mom duo to line up first and third, as they would both, I believe, have the inside into turn 1. Teammate to, once was pole sitter, teammate to the previous champion in Season 3. And Peach, no slouch whatsoever, consistent podiums in Season 3, and very strong in the Mustang. We'll see if we can get some replicated results here. 63 of Lynch off into the grass at the exit of the turn 7 and 8 chicane. Sorry, the turn 6 and 7 chicane. Just churning out some final practice. Adrian in the Porsche. moves up to third. We have not seen many Porsches with great success here in GoFAST racing. Could we see a Porsche podium? Could we see a Porsche win today? Not far off of that fastest pace in practice is Adrian in the Porsche. Now we'll see if there's more time to be found. But as of right now, the Porsche is seeming to be fairly competitive. There are a few different Porsche drivers, not many who opt for the Porsche in Pro. Still plenty of opportunity. We'll see if there's any improvement on this lap. Could be a contender for quickest lap in practice in the Porsche, which again would be fairly surprising, but no, it's not going to be on this lap. Did not get the run out of the final corner. Bit of an incident behind involving the 9 of Aramich. Not sure of who exactly all was involved there. Slapshot in the McLaren being dropped down a few positions in practice. A few more actually down into P7, a practice pit stop from our practice leader. And in AM, either we haven't had very many times set in AM, or it is a very strong track for the Porsche. Zoonam and Scoliosis currently in AM 1-2 in the Porsche. Scoliosis finding a good bit of time. It's only 3/10 against his closest AM competitor. Zoonam, I believe, just coming out of the pit lane. Pit lane exit is going to be a bit of a topic of conversation as you get spit right out. Not quite onto the racing line, but you very quickly could find yourself on the racing line coming out of the pit lane. Few of our AM drivers to watch. Schwartz in the Mustang, one to watch. We did have that three-way finish last week. I believe it was Silva taking the win in AM. Do not see Silva here with us tonight, at least not right now. Schwartz was in that competition as well, and I believe may have been Sierra involved in that as well. I'll have to go back and look at the clip, which I may do that now just to verify that I have the right information. It was Silva, Schuby, and Schwartz. And Schuby actually just bumping up to the top spot in AM. So still looking to see a bit more improvement there. But the Mustang Motorsports AM team looking fairly strong, as it is currently P3 and 4 for the Mustang team. Just a bit more time in practice. We do have 40 cars on the grid. Not quite the 50 that we saw at the season opener. Hungaroring, not necessarily a favorite of many, but everyone who is here on track tonight is in contention for the championship. Set round one aside, could be your freebie if it's your worst result. Championships as of right now, anyone's game. I don't believe that we have our reigning champion of Prieto here with us tonight. So this is going to be an opportunity for anyone who wants to contend for that championship, whether it be a first-time championship or maybe some retribution for a poor season and trying to get another championship. Now is the time where you stake your claim. Bit of our oddball tracks like Hungaroring. If there's going to be a track where you're going to show off your pace or you have to perform in these situations, now is the time. A lot of people show up for the first race of the season. It's like the Daytona 500. Everybody wants to be there for the first one, for the big one, but those who are really there to contend for the big prize at the end, they stick around for weeks 2, 3, 4, 5, and beyond. Watch Peachy come through. It is a Slap Your Mom 1-2 again. As again, that retribution slap shot with the fastest time in practice. Thank you for the raid, Ib Schofield. We are just getting done with free practice and we are about to get started with our AM qualifying session, and then we will move to our Pro qualifying session. 42 cars on the grid for this league race tonight. Round 2 of GoFAST Racing Season 5. Currently riding on board with Peachy, one of our AM drivers, but previous champion has not seen victory lane in quite some time. Has set himself up for the best opportunity tonight. Showing the pace in practice, we'll see if it transitions over to qualifying. Less than a minute away from our AM qualifying session. And again, thank you for the raid, Ib Schofield. Make sure I give you a shout out. Everybody, if you would not mind, go follow Ib Schofield Racing. Final lap across the line. It doesn't look like it's any improvement for Slapshot, but still showing that he has got the pace. The Slap Your Mom Racing duo, at least showing their true colors early. It's not really looking too great for Team BDK Mod, as this team, well, tricks it, disrupts the Slap Your Mom 1-2, at least in practice. Jumps up to the second spot, 0.07 of a second off of the time set by Slapshot. And again, if you would like to check out the live timing during qualifying, use ! timing in the chat, and you can go to the GoFAST Racing GFR race server on the drop-down and watch our live timing in real time. Thank you to Trixit, who we are actually on board with now, for setting that up for us. It does give us a bit of an edge on other console leagues. We have quite the resources, and pretty much all thanks to Trixit for those. Just awaiting the end of our free practice session, and we will get started with AM qualifying. It was Silva with the win in AM last week at COTA, but it was almost a three-way photo finish between the three AM drivers, Silva, Shuby, and Schwartz. Will we see the shootout between the three? It's currently Shuby on top in our AM field. And we will await Iceberg in the number 2 Elmer's Racing Team Mercedes to come across the line. And should conclude our free practice session. It'll be a practice pit stop for the Mercedes driver. A couple still yet to come along. I believe we have the 93 of Phoenix Gecko. Sorry, that is the 93 of Mataj. Bit of a number change there. And then the 21 of Platypus, I believe, still to come across the line as well, but should end our session here as it does. And it is going to be Am out first, and Schwartz in the Mustang immediately going out, but will be cut off by the 444 of Elmo. So Am's quick to take the track. They do get to warm the track up for the pros. And Schwartz 1-2 watch has been in close contention for the Am title in the previous 2 seasons, but just has not seen the success. See if Schwartz can bring any time in that Mustang. Elmo in the 444 Crimson Eclipse Ford Mustang GT3, going to be, at least at the time being, if this lap stays valid, and the next lap stays valid, should be our first to set the pace for the Am field. Maybe trying to open up a bit of a gap to Schwartz behind in the Mustang. It was a bit of a snooze fest with our pro field last week at COTA. All of the drama came with the Am field. And we will see if it is the same song and dance tonight. A little bit behind it is Schwartz and the Lexus, not of Sierra, but James Earl Jones in the Lexus there. And across the line to start our first flying laps of Am qualifying. 8 minutes left to go in the Am session before our pros start rolling out, and the pros will begin to queue at the end of the pit lane whenever their qualifying starts. Again, if you would like to follow the timing, use the !timing command, TIMING, in the Twitch chat, and go to the GFR race dropdown, and you can stay up to date with the session info, sector times, and fastest laps, everything of the sort, all the information that you would need to stay up to date. And it will also include times by fastest lap and race position during the race. Schwartz and the Mustang closing up a bit behind. But as long as the lap stays valid for Elmo, it will set the pace for the Am field behind. Again, welcome in everyone. We are in Am qualifying. First of our 2 little qualifying sessions. GoFAST Racing Season 5, the fastest league on console. And pull up your LFM pace chart, because through both our Am and Pro fields, you will see the top times in that LFM chart challenged. Crossline 145.887 for Elmo, but it is bested by Shuby 144.985, the time to beat in Am. It's a lot of Mustangs, a lot of front engine V8s at the top of the field. We did see the few Porsche that we have on the grid making their way up the order, still yet to qualify, or at least set their first times. We'll see where the Porsche will fall. Unfortunate, Carter, but you're welcome to stick around and watch qualifying and the race if you want to. The sector times very close between P1 and P2, at least through Sector 1. Those times do change quite a bit in Sector 2. And again, very close in Sector 3, so a lot of time to be made for Schwartz in the Mustang in Sector 2, but still all about Schuby. I don't think we quite see our pros queuing up at the end of the pit lane just yet, but I guarantee you they will be in the closing stages of the AM session, right around 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes left in AM. Bit of a slide coming out of the penultimate corner for Schuby. Schwartz goes quicker. Schuby will not be able to contend. It's now back in the hands of Schwartz for the top time of the session. And a marginal improvement, but into the 44s, we did see our pro times well into the 43s. So there is still plenty of time for the times to drop. Chandler, Cabe, and Peachy, our 3 AMs, still yet to set a time in qualifying. So we expect to see them put a time up on the board, or maybe with the bowling antics that are not very far outside the realm of possibility here at Hungaroring, maybe sticking around at the back of the pack may be the play. If you are new tuning in tonight, our race session is a 45-minute race session, 1 pit stop required. It can be the splash and dash. Do not have to take tires, but you more than likely will if you want to keep up with the pace. We do see quite a large variance in pit strategy. Some drivers may come in a couple laps early. Some drivers may stay up to 5 or 6 laps late, depending on how far they are willing to go on the strategy. Not expecting any weather in the session. Just nice clear skies, sunny and warm. Ambient temperature 22 degrees Celsius, track temperature 28 degrees Celsius. If you would like to get started with GoFast Racing, join the GFR Discord. The link is in the Twitch chat. Elmo in the Mustang goes fast, just a 44.475, almost putting half a second on the rest of the AM field. Schuby then bumps up into P2 for a moment. Zoanam in the Porsche. Did say that we would see the Porsche pretty far up the order, and the AM times are falling. What about our pro field, though? Have they begun to queue at the end of the pit lane? Oh, yes, they have. Just a handful of them, though, as there is still a good bit of AM qualifying yet to go. I do believe everyone out on track will get 1 more flying lap. The pros are not allowed to take the field until the timer hits 10 minutes on the dot. And the AM drivers all have until that timer hits 10 minutes to start their next lap. If they cross the line at 10:01, it's probably going to be reviewed. Does not mean that it's going to be invalid as long as they cross the line with time left. It's like crossing the line with 0 seconds left on the clock. You still, or with at least 1 second left on the clock, you are still given that 1 final lap. Out of the final corner to start his final flying lap, Elmo with a 144.475 does not find any improvement on that lap. What about the rest of the field behind? Schuby does find a bit more time, 28 thousandths of a second separating the two, and we have a bit of a shootout between the 2 Mustangs, Schuby versus Elmo. Elmo looking for his first win in AM, and possibly Schuby looking for the same. It is heating up a bit in the AM qualifying. Lynch in the Mustang, currently P18 in AM, will not be able to improve. And Chandler in the Mercedes, the only AM driver still yet to set a time. Scary in the pit lane will not be able to improve. Sierra will will start P4 at best. The 3:33 of Cade crosses the line. Will be the final lap for Cade. The 30 of Peachy across the line, looking for some improvement. Currently P15 as our pro field does get the green light to exit the pit lane. Peachy up to P9. What about Elmo? Elmo with Schwartz right behind. Elmo only needs a quarter of a tenth of a second, 28 thousandths the difference. Does he have it? He's still pushing on this lap, but needs to be very careful applying that power out of these double hairpins. Can very easily overstep the rear and lose all of your time. What is it for Elmo? Is it good enough for pole? It is going to be by about a quarter of a second. Not any improvement for Schwartz. What about the 55 of Zoenom? Currently P4. Stays P4. What about the 555 of Manelli? Goes up to P9. What about the 33 of Devin Lingard into the pit lane? The 111 of Kiss Army in the Ferrari 296 out of the final corner across the line. What'll it be for Kiss Army? Currently P11 moves up to P8. What about the 81 of Scroll? Moves up to P6. What about the 14 of Bradzilla in the Ferrari? On the brakes nicely, a bit wide out of the apex. But across the line, what'll it be? P14. And the 83 of Chandler in the Mercedes P15 stays P15, and I believe that will be an end to our AM qualifying session. And it does seem to be that the 86 of Trixit is going to be the first of the pro drivers to set a time for our pro field. 44.210, almost into the 43s for our AM drivers. And what about for our pros? We did see the McLarens quite a ways up the order. And the queue has started at the end of the lap. They have tried to spread out as best as possible. And we'll ride on board with Trixit as he goes to set the pace for the pro field. Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you are not following, I'd greatly appreciate it if you would hit that follow button. We just hit 600 followers, and we'll try and see how long it takes to get to 700. We have had a good bit of growth here in the past couple months. We just hit 500 right at the beginning of the year. And we'd like to hit 1,000. I'd like to hit 1,000 by the end of the year this year. And I don't think that that is really too far off the cards. A bit of a slide trouble for Trixit. That is not going to be good for the lap. Out of the penultimate corner. We'll see if it's still valid. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be, but it's not going to be the fastest. Across the line for Trixit. It's only good enough for P5 overall. Griffith moves up into P3 overall. Salinas in the McLaren goes quickest. Ouroboros P3, only 55 thousandths of a second separating our top three. Brother Elmo in the Mustang has wedged himself very far up into that pro field. 144.037 for Brute in the Aston. We are still awaiting our first 143. It is going to come. We had times well into the 43s for our pro field in practice. And just a quick look at the LFM pace sheet, as people like to compare console and PC times quite often. 143.2 is a 101% time for PC, and we are just breaking into the 143s. So we shall see if we can contend with that 101% LFN time. Slapshot, again, with his return to form, at least trying to have a return to form here Has been a while since Slapshot has seen victory. He did see pole last season at Bathurst, but it did not go well for him from the front of the field. And we will see if he can get retribution for that Bathurst race, if he can get retribution for the entirety of Season 4. And will we get the Slap Your Mom 1-2? Tricks it in the McLaren, trip zip on Slapshot, 0-0-0. It didn't last long though as Griffith goes fast. It's a 43.437 and we are quickly challenging that 101% LFM time. Could we see the 142s here in qualifying? I wouldn't put it past our pro drivers. Griffith, 143.437. And all purple sectors for Griffith. All purple for Griffith on that lap. Mustang seeming to be very strong here, and Elmo has put himself into a very good position. Only about a quarter of a second quicker than his competitor of Shuby, but there are 5 pros filling that void, and we do have our reigning champion. Prieto with the Animus Racing GTR has joined the session, and we will see if he is going to contend for the top. Yes, he is, goes P2 in the GTR. And Prieto having a bit of fun in this season, but he is showing that he is going to be competitive no matter the car. See how the GTR will fare for Prieto. Season 4 reigning champion. Race 1 in Season 5. Griffith takes it back though. Ormiston jumped up into the top spot for a moment, but a 42.9 for Griffith. We have found the 42s, and Griffith is not playing whatsoever tonight. Again, all green sectors for Griffith. Sorry, not all green sectors, all purple sectors for Griffith. And we are getting well into the 42s. We will see if there can be any improvement from then on. Ouroboros in the pit lane. He should be able to get back out and get one final flying lap as he is rolling off the jacks back out of the pit lane. Has a lot of time to try and make Slapshot. But now half a second behind our 2 leaders, the smooth operators and smooth Cremu Mustangs of Griffith and Ormiston. It is Mustang power at the top. One more opportunity for our current qualifying leaders. Ormiston ahead of Griffith. Ormiston in P2 ahead of Griffith in P1. And Griffith may be getting a bit of a slipstream boost on this lap. Trixit leading the charge of this group. Ormiston behind is not in slipstream range, but it is no improvement for Trixit. What about for Ormiston or Griffith? I think they are both invalid. This is their one more opportunity at this lap. What about the number 9 of Aramich? All the way down in P24, was a contender for the championship in Season 4, just did not quite go his way, and is definitely not going his way tonight here at Hungaroring. Do believe everyone from Peach on forward should have one more lap to go. We'll see if Peach makes it back across the line in time. Slapshot has found his way back into P3. Ouroboros P4. Prieto reigning champion in P6. Took the pole last week at Coda. I'm sure he's got something left in his pocket for this lap. He won't have much time left, but he will cross the line. I think he will barely cross the line with enough time. He has got to get on the pedal and go. 5, 4, 3, 2. 2 seconds left. Crosses the line for one final opportunity at a flying lap. Peach will not make it and will start the field in P12, at least as it stands now. The 86 of Trixit with the 314 of Ormiston behind Griffith. I believe has gone into the pit lane. Yes, he has. Trixit, any improvement from the McLaren? Up to P4. What about for Ormiston? It's not good enough for pole. What about the 10 of Salinas? Good for P11. What about the 9 of Aramich? Into the pit lane. The 71 of your mom. Is it a slap your mom 1-2? It's got to be a lot of time on this lap if it is. Good enough for P3. It may not be a slap your mom front row. Adrian, P13. Immediately behind is the Ferrari, the 93 Ferrari of Mataj Didas. And then we do have the, can't quite see who that is, they are covered up. The 2 of Iceberg across the line will not improve into the pit lane. Slapshot currently P4, goes up to P2, so he's on the front row at least. What about the 21 of Platypus? Goes P9. And what about our reigning champion? Does Prieto put the GTR back on the top spot? It's got to be a killer lap from the Nissan. From the reigning champion, is it good enough? And no, P7 for Prieto. And that is going to bring an end to our qualifying. It is Griffith on pole, Slapshot P2, Ormiston P3. Your mom P4, Trixit P5, Ouroboros P6, Prieto P7, Brute P8, Platypus P9, Giant P10, Mataj P11, Salinas P12, Peach P13, Adrian P14, Marvy P15, Langley P16, Nate P17, Elmo P18, Iceberg P19, Shuby P20, Schwartz P21, Ricky Bobby P22, Francisco P23, Zoanon P24, YOLO Lemon P25, Aramich P26, Sierra P27, Scoliosis P28, Devin Lingard P29, Kiss Army P30, Dingham P31, Leclerc P32, Manelli P33, Peachy P34, Cade P35, Bradzilla P36, Chandler P37, Christian B P38, Scary P39, Rowden P40, and Lynch P41. And in AM, Elmo P1, Shuby P2, Schwartz P3, Zoanon P4, Sierra P5, Scoliosis P6, Lingard P7, Kiss Army P8, Leclerc P9, Manelli P10, Peachy P11, Cade P12, Bradzilla P13, Chandler P14, Christian B P15, Scary P16, Rowden P17, and Lynch P18. Well, that is our grid. 2 minutes away from our formation lap. We will take a quick break and we will be right back for our race. Should be back in 20 seconds. Do run ads in the bit of a cool down session because it does get rid of ads for anybody tuning in during the race. So I'd rather run them now and get them out of the way. We are engines fired, getting ready for our formation lap as we head towards the green flag for round 2 of season 5 with GoFAST Racing. Thank you all for tuning in. We are currently the top ACC stream right now, and we are a console stream, so that is absolutely awesome to see. Griffith will smoke the tires on the Ford Mustang GT3. No smoke of the tires, just a nice easy rollout. Wants to keep those rear tires in as good of shape as possible. And now it is up to Griffith. Do believe if Griffith would take the win, it would be his first win here with GoFAST Racing. I could be wrong, could be some history going back a bit further than that, but at least to my knowledge on the races that I have commentated here with GoFAST, it would be Griffith's first win. 40 cars on the grid as we get ready to go here at Hungaroring. And quite a contentious track is this one. There's a long run into turn 1, a lot of things that can go wrong. Probably some things that will go wrong. 14 turns here and plenty of overtaking opportunity. I do believe that Hungaroring has some of the best overtaking opportunity of any track that we will race at. Griffith will lead us to the green flag. Does have the McLaren behind of Slapshot, and as I did just so happen to call it, it is going to be a Slap Your Mom 2 and 4. I said they would like a 1 and 3, but it's a Slap Your Mom Racing 2 and 4. They will be nose to tail. And I have no reason to believe that they will not be working together to try and push their way past the Mustangs. They've shown that they have competitive pace. We'll see how the pace from Griffith transfers over to the race. Probably going to be with a bit more of a conservative setup on that Mustang. But Griffith's pace in qualifying far exceeded any of the competitors by about 3/10, I believe. They line up 2 by 2. The McLarens will have the outside as the 2 Mustangs, who are not quite teammates. But I do believe there may be some relations between the Smooth Cremu and the Smooth Operators teams. But we line up 2 by 2, going back quite a ways. They're still lining up just at the entrance into the penultimate corner as we are heading into the final corner. And it is Griffith leading. Slapshot in P2. Ormiston P3, your mom P4. Green, green, green. And it's a bit of a sleep at the wheel for Ormiston, going to be immediately under attack by Trixit, but he moves over, very defensive as they come into turn 1. They are 3 wide behind. The 2 McLarens want to try it around the outside, and Slapshot will get it done around the outside. He will at least be alongside as they come into turn 2. And now up the inside, the 2 McLarens trying to work together. Slapshot will move up into the lead of the race. A bit further behind, I believe, no drama for now, but they are still trying to get everything sorted. The 334 of Peach getting gobbled up by the field is now dropping back a couple positions. Slapshot is still leading. And elbows are out from your mom. They both go deep. And I don't think Griffith is going to be too happy about that one. May have been a bit more cordial in the defense of the position, but now is going to do everything he can to hold on to it. And they are fighting behind Trixit and Ormiston. Ormiston will reclaim his position back up the inside and move back up into what I believe will be P4. A bit further behind, our AM leader of Elmo has a few pros behind between himself and his next AM competitor of Shuby in the number 11 Ford Mustang, but it is going to be Slapshot who will lead the first lap of this race. As we come around the final corner for the first time. And Griffith has the McLaren behind, but I don't think the McLaren is quite going to have the gusto, the get up and go that the Mustang will have down the straight. And they are battling a bit further behind. Taz trying to go up the inside, a bit of weaving back and forth from Brute and Platypus. Brute ahead of Platypus. Porsche of Adrian, who was a bit further up the grid, is now dropping like a rock as Salinas was looking to overtake. Adrian will take that position back. Elmo back in P14 overall, your AM leader, with Peach immediately behind. I think he may move over and let Peach go by, or wants to go side by side, maybe didn't want to go side by side alongside the Porsche into what I believe is turn 5 there. Incident a bit further back between Cabe and I believe that is the McLaren of Peachy. Yes, it is. Slapshot trying to extend the lead early as everyone has lined up single file. Oh, Wilson, you had to go and say something. It was almost clean for the first few laps. But the elbows are out, that is for sure. Brute in the Aston Martin looking to get a position from our reigning champion of Prieto, and it does seem to be that the GTR may be causing a bit more problems than it is helping, as I don't think Prieto has quite the pace that he was looking for. A bit further ahead, Griffith going very defensive against the McLaren, and Ormiston in the Mustang wants to go for the opportunity at turn 1 that is not going to arise, and Trixit throwing a bit of a late defense. I believe he is really just playing second fiddle to the current race leader of Slapshot, who is now pulling a bit of a gap to the field behind. And Prieto in the GTR, I believe, is opening up a bit of a gap to those next cars ahead, as the teammate of Ouroboros is trying to hold on to the slipstream of Trixit in the McLaren. There is a bit of a train up here from P1 or P2 back onto P5 or 6. Everything's still staying fairly nice. The 427 of Nate side by side with Francisco in the BMW, and Aramich all the way back at P21. Usually qualifies a bit further up the grid. Try to go 2x2 through the chicane. There's not really room for 2 cars there, but side-by-side racing between Aramich and Francisco. Aramich is just on the wrong side of the coin in that battle, being forced the long way around the outside. Well, I'm still trying to gain on Griffith and get up there alongside his teammate for the 1-2. Griffith goes a bit deep into the final corner. Will that give your mom a bit of a drive out of the final corner? I don't quite think so. And now Ouroboros has thoroughly split from the teammate. Does take the fastest lap and now wants to send it up the inside into turn 1 on Trixit. The opportunity is given. Does Trixit go for the old switcheroo? He does, but Ouroboros will have the inside at turn 2. And I think Trixit just gets the better run. They'll be side by side into turn 2 they go. Bit of camber to kind of pull you around the inside, but Trixit knows if he can keep the inside at turn 3, he has the opportunity once again. but the opportunity does not arise, wasn't able to stay alongside long enough. Still dropping back as that gap continues to open, but speaking of opening, the opportunity for Giant in the McLaren to go for the position against Brute opens up as Brute goes a bit too deep into the chicane. And then Giant gets kind of forced into it all wrong, and I think Adrian in the Porsche, who is hoping for a better opportunity there, just carrying more speed. Incident as Peach goes around, Adrian involved. Adrian did not quite fare so bad, but the 221 of Giant involved as well. Is that just coming out of the pit lane, or is that anyone coming out of the pit lane? I think it was just Griffith going very far up the inside to defend. Griffith has taken the fastest lap of the race back, and now this top 5 is beginning to spread out a bit. Still being held behind. Prieto does have a bit of breathing room. The gap has opened up to Mataj. And Brute has gone down a position as well. And who is that in the Porsche? It is not the Porsche of Zodom, it's the Porsche of Scoliosis, who has gone for the early pit stop. Wonder if maybe he had an issue and is going to now have to go the long way. Bit of a scrap between Ricky Bobby and YOLO Lemon. We are now just about 10 minutes into this race. Things have again calmed down a bit. Heavy battle in AM. As this is the battle for, this is not the battle for P3, this is Peach trying to reclaim a few positions, but this is Devin Lingard in P3. Schwartz in Devin Lingard, who was fighting for that P3 spot. Devin Lingard actually in P6, Leclerc in P4, as Leclerc and Sierra are fighting for that third place spot in AM. Oh, and does Ouroboros get it all wrong? I think he may be having a bit of a connection issue, but seemingly got it wrong at the same time, and some blipping issues, which are not very sought after. And Prieto will drop down a position, give the spot to Trixit. Now will Ouroboros try and get this position back? I don't think he will be quite close enough, but he does have the pace in order to do so. Mataj now with Brute and Salinas behind. This looking to be a battle for P8 in Pro. And we are still about 10 minutes away from our pit stops, but they are coming. I do believe pit stop strategy will be a bit of a factor in tonight's race. Brother almost still leading in AM, all by his lonesome at the front of the field. The front of the field in AM. He does have quite the company of the pros though. Langley ahead and Adrian behind. Shuby. P2 in AM has Francisco and Aramich. We did see Francisco and Aramich fighting for position just a bit ago. This group headed by the AM runner-up continue to press on. Rom still trying to find a way past the 39 Mustang of Griffith as he wants to get up on the front row with his teammate. But drama in the pit lane can change things quite a bit. We have seen it change things, maybe a bit too slow finding the box. Maybe a mishap in the pit lane, not enough fuel, maybe a speeding penalty. There are still plenty of things that can cause disruptions no matter where you are on track. And a bit of damage on the side of the Mustang for Shuby. I don't think it's going to be anything to affect the handling or performance of the car. And YOLO Lemon behind, looking for an overtake on Ricky Bobby. The opportunity is not going to arise though, but is still definitely pestering for the move. This is between teammates though, so I don't think there will be too much drama between these two. And out very wide goes YOLO Lemon. Trixit and Ouroboros continuing their fight. Ouroboros gave up the spot, now wants to try and get it back. And as I was talking earlier, this being crucial, or at least showing this being this round 2 of season 5, 10-race season. But with Prieto not quite running at the front of the field, you don't think that he is necessarily going to be contending for the win. At least running in P7 now is a crucial time to try and pick up some points should you want to contend for the overall championship. And I can tell you right now, Slapshot, Griffith, Your Mom, Ormiston, they are all going to be trying to gain whatever time they can. The 39, sorry, not the 39, was the Ferrari, the 111 Ferrari of Kiss Army, who has now been swallowed up by the pros and will go down a lap. Trixit still with Ouroboros behind Trixit, now immediately behind Ormiston. And in that slipstream range, but again, that Mustang with its superior top speed makes it very hard 41 behind to try and stay behind even if you are in the slipstream. Same thing for Your Mom in the McLaren, but not a very top speed dependent track is this one in Hungaroring. Let's go on board with Your Mom for just a moment. He is trying to chase down the Mustang and get alongside the teammate for a Slap Your Mom Racing 1-2. Again, a bit early to call it, only 15 minutes, 1/3 of the way into this race. Closing up nicely. It does seem that the McLaren gets a bit more rotation than the Mustang. But on these flat out sections of track, the Mustang will just pull away. A bit of a slide from Griffith. Not quite close enough to have to go defensive, but Your Mom will throw the feint and at least give off the illusion that he might go for a move at the next corner. But now some gaps have definitely grown. Is at the 721 of YOLO Lemon getting thrown a yellow flag? Yes, it was momentarily. Lingard in the 33 with Zoanam in the Porsche behind, as we have had a few separate packs begin to develop on track. And gap between Your Mom and Griffith tighter than it ever has been before. But I think your mom got it all wrong, and that gap will then open up about as big as it had been before. And Slapshot is not necessarily running away. He does have a 1.5 second margin to Griffith behind. But one poor run through the corner, get a bit too much curb there, run a bit too wide here, too early on the throttle or too late on the brakes. That is all it's going to take, as Griffith has gained just half a second in that last sector. And maybe some pace coming away from Slapshot being handed back to Griffith, as we are not far away from our pit stops. Langley, I believe, has now escaped from the AM leader in that pink and blue Too Slow Racing BMW. Very similar BMW to the one that you saw run in the Onid Watkins Glen 4-hour this past weekend. And Elmo with Adrian in the Porsche, who was involved in that contact earlier, now trying to regain some positions. This pack at the front of the field has stayed fairly tight. The gap has grown between Ormiston and your mom. Ormiston now 2 seconds back from your mom. And the 51 of Leclerc gets a drive-through penalty for track limits from P4 in AM. That is going to drop him a fair amount off of the field there and very far down the order in AM. Battle's continuing between our field here. Have we had a few pit stops? What has happened to the 9 of Aramich? He has come in, so has Giant. Giant came in not with damage. I believe it may have just been a strategy call to come in. So has YOLO Lemon. So we have had a few early stops. The 99 of Schwartz has come in early as well, but he does have a bit of damage on that Mustang. We will see how this will affect his race from here on, if maybe he can regain some time in the pit lane. Battle here for P9 between Mataj and Salinas. And we will expect our leaders in the pit lane at any moment. 33 of Lengard gets a drive-through penalty for track limits. And we are starting to see those track limit penalties get a bit more frequent. The 15 of Ricky Bobby around at turn 8 and now has to let the field go by. '93 of Mataj got a bit of a poor run out of the final corner. The 24 Aston Martin of Brute comes in the pit lane early to try and get a bit of a jump on the field ahead. Nose to tail this battle for P8. But no, Salinas gets it a bit wrong. Too deep with the rear. And the rear goes around. That will lose a ton of time. And now Griffith is on the charge, as Slapshot now has some contention for position for the first time in a while. Griffith has stretched a ways from your mom away from Ormiston. Ormiston still has Trixit behind, but not quite in the slipstream. But now thoroughly on the charge is Griffith. Put it on pole. It is quickly, with that lead taken away, has not led a lap of this race. Slapshot elbows out, wanted to get up ahead. Your mom was also elbows out, getting past Ormiston. Still no alternate pit strategies here. What about the 314 of Ormiston? No, not coming into the pit lane. We should expect our race leaders into the pit lane at any moment, though. What about the one of Prieto? Prieto will take the plunge and go into the pit lane all by himself, though. Don't think he will have any company in the pit lane. And Griffith is still very much on the charge. The two of Iceberg off and around it, that seems to be by himself. Now gets it turned the right way. Mataj in the pit lane, and your AM leader Elmo in the pit lane all by himself. Shuby comes into the pit lane as well with Francisco. It's a double stack for the Southern Fried Shake and Bake. Peach will come into the pit lane as well. Things are getting a bit tight with our top three. .721 gets a drive-through penalty for track limits. That is going to be the Manti-colored McLaren of Yolo Lemon. Prieto off the Jackson out of the pit lane is a quick stop for Prieto. And the reigning champion will now roll out of the pit lane. What happens here with pit stops between our top three? Or really between our top five? Ormiston does have Trixit behind. Will we see Slapshot come in on this lap? If Slapshot comes in, does Griffith stay out? No, it is going to be Griffith to come in and try the undercut. The Slap Your Mom Racing McLaren duo stays out. Ormiston stays out. Trixit stays out. Ouroboros stays out. Salinas, we'll see if he comes in on this lap. And yes, he will come in. So Griffith from P2 in the pit lane. We'll see if that gains him any time. Yellow Lemon in the McLaren just in the background coming in to serve the penalty. So now at least for a lap it will be a Slap Your Mom 1-2 as we await more cars in the pit lane. Ormiston with Trixit well on his tail. Ouroboros there as well. So who has pit? Prieto has pit, Brute has pit. Brute is not far behind Prieto. Nate P comes in, Langley comes in, Marvy comes in, and Sierra come in as well. Sierra was your next scored AM race, or yes, your AM race leader, will lead a lap in AM. Still the Slapshot show, and how long do the McLarens stay out? It's likely going to be a double stack for Slapshot and your mom. We'll just have to wait and see how long they stay out. Bit of a race behind as Ormiston, Trixit, and Ouroboros are all stuck together. And Griffith out of the pit lane. Salinas, the next behind in position, is way far behind. So Griffith out in open track will be able to set some laps in with no hindrances whatsoever. Ormiston comes in, Trixit comes in, Ouroboros comes in. It's a train between the three. Are there going to be any speeding penalties? I don't think so. This is quite the top talent. Ouroboros getting right up onto the rear of Trixit in the pit lane. And your mom came in as well, so Slapshot is out all on his own at the front. I believe he does have, I think that is the 721 just up ahead. Sorry, not the 721. That is the 221 of Giant. Yes, it is, who will yield to the race leader. Adrian will be scored P2, at least momentarily. Still expecting the Porsche to come into the pit lane, as well as the Mercedes and Porsche behind as well. Zoanam comes into the pit lane, your next scored AM race leader. A bit of damage on that Porsche, but nothing too bad. And we will expect Slapshot into the pit lane on this lap. What about the race out of pit lane? Your mom is rolling first. Came in first. Ormiston off the jacks will come out right alongside your mom. It's a race out of pit lane. Trixit gets all the way, or does actually not gets all the way ahead. Ormiston gets all the way ahead. It's Trixit and Ouroboros now racing each other, and I think Ormiston had the best stop of the trio there, as he is now well on to the fight with your mom. What about the 39 of Griffith? He has assumed his spot just up ahead. I believe he has gained some time in that undercut. And Slap comes into the pit lane as well. It's got to be a perfect stop from Slap. No speeding penalty can be afforded, and I don't think he will be getting one there. Adrian, who, if he stays out, will be scored your race leader. We'll see if he stays out, though. Likely to come into the pit lane. No, he will stay out. What about the 21 Mercedes of Platypus? Platypus comes in, and Adrian will lead a lap of this race. Griffith now hard charging, but just behind your mom and Ormiston in a bit of a different situation, as your mom is, I believe, thoroughly going to be driving with his eyes glued on the mirrors. And now the pressure may be getting to the 71 Slap Your Mom Racing McLaren driver. Cabe, the last of our AM drivers to have to come into the pit lane. Adrian still needs to come in as well. And now he is going to be gobbled up by the pack. Trixit and Ouroboros nose to tail. As we are just 17.5 minutes to go in this race. And side by side, almost side by side, I expect them to go into turn one, but they will not. Immediately behind, Prieto and Brute in a battle amongst each other as well. Elmo with Cabe in the pit lane. Cabe is rolling, though. I believe Cabe, if he can get out, or has he just barely made it to the pit box? I thought he was just rolling out, but he has now just made it in. So Elmo will be scored back as your AM race leader, and a long ways back is Shuby, who is being overtaken currently by Peach. And Peach will get the position there. Again, things not so bright and sunny for the 71 of your mom. Does hold the fastest lap of the race, but does have a previous champion of Ormiston immediately behind. 2 seconds to gap between Griffith and Slapshot. And if we look at last lap, we'll have to wait and see it to update. Griffith does hold a faster lap than Slapshot. It's not by much, but it is a faster lap. Adrian has come into the pit lane. Slapshot will be the leader once again. The gap 1.975 seconds between your top two. In P4, Ormiston still closing. That may just be applying more pressure onto your mom to drive faster, drive faster. "15 minutes left to go, and everyone has stayed fairly calm throughout the first 2/3 of this race, but we do expect the elbows out to come out here shortly. Speaking of, Peach wanted to go for the move on Francisco. He has split the two Southern Shake and Bake, or Southern Fried Shake and Bake teammates of Francisco and Shuby, and is now trying to get a drive past. It's a long way to go to the next position ahead, but Peach wants to go for it. Trixit and Ouroboros. Ouroboros has now overtaken Trixit, and Prieto in the GTR behind is going to want to gain some of that time as well. Back on with this battle, Francisco still holding on to the position P15, but Peach is definitely carrying a bit more speed, wants to get away past, but has to wait for the opportunity to arise. Gap now growing between Ouroboros and tricks it. The gap dropping slightly between Griffith and Slapshot. The gap growing just a bit between your mom and Ormiston. Maybe the tires are now warmed up and the McLaren's able to pull away. At least the McLaren of your mom able to get a bit more time away. He will fall back to Ormiston though, who has closed that gap right back up. Griffith hard charging as well. It's taken another quarter of a second off of the gap between Slapshot and Griffith. Bit of a blip from Griffith there though. I was going to say still battling for position, but something went completely wrong for Peach there and will now fall back all the way back to P9 behind the BMW of Marvy, who has now caught up to this gap and caught up to this group and is racing for position. Looking for a spot on Nate in the MSA 2 slow joint effort Ford Mustang. Don't see the second half of that joint effort, the MSA half of Sylph. The gap's now holding between Slapshot and Griffith, but this final spot for the podium is definitely in contention. Mom and Ormiston. Now I think pressure starting to reside more on the shoulders of your mom as the gap ahead is growing by quite a bit. And if Griffith can get Slapshot by himself, which he has done, Griffith may be able to go for that move late in this race. The gap closing up yet again, 1.3 seconds now, was 2 seconds just a couple laps ago. Adrian in P11, Langley P12, and your AM leader of Elmo in P13. This group here just kind of running amongst each other. Don't know if Adrian will be able to get that Porsche into the top 10, but he did have a bit of a run-in the early stages of this race and has made a fairly good recovery. This group here with Shuby, Nate, and Marvy. Shuby in P2 in AM. Nate and Marvy racing for P17. Again, I believe continuing to churn laps there. Battle here between Aramage and Dingham. Dingham in the BMW. Trying to find the space to get past the Aston Martin driver. Again, a contender for the championship in Season 4. Things just not quite going his way here so far in Season 5. Dingham well on the bumper of Aramage. Wasn't close enough for the overtake. And Slapshot has the Mustang of Griffith getting closer and closer. 1.2 seconds the gap now. And your mom has GTR of Prieto behind. As I believe your mom has made a mistake. Was in P3, now down to P6. That was the 68 BMW of Scary, who's got a fair bit of damage on that BMW. Lynch with a bit of damage on that Mustang as well. Rowden and Kiss Army in a battle for position here. Rowden trying to get the spot back. Kiss Army going a bit defensive. And for now, Kiss Army will have that spot. Ouroboros in P4. I don't think he has quite enough time to catch up to P3. But your mom has Prieto and Brute. Prieto has had Brute pretty much on a trailer hitch behind for quite some time. And Brute has just been able to follow your mom. I believe did have that mistake. The gap had opened up to those next cars ahead. And a Ferrari up ahead. I don't think that is the Ferrari at Kiss Army. Actually, yes, it is. It was not Kiss Army in that battle before. It wasn't Leclerc, it wasn't Sierra, so I think I may have completely mixed up a Ferrari there. The number 4 BMW of Langley getting a drive-through penalty there. Going to have to go serve that, and that penalty will sting, and then a bit of a mistake at the chicane, which is just going to lose him even more time. Kind of stuck in the vortex, it seems everyone might be. They're able to catch up to the car ahead, but just not really able to do much once they get closer. We have seen quite a few overtakes should the drivers be able to get close enough to each other into the corners. It's just a bit hard to get everything to stick. Peach, after that incident where he got a bit of damage earlier, is now making his way back up through the field, currently in P18. Not very good 4 points for the Smooth Creamoo team, who were looking to score a fair amount of points with 2 drivers well into the top 10. And Prieto may have gotten on the gas as he has opened up the gap to the Aston Martin of Brute behind. Slapshot now being caught up a bit by traffic. And Griffith will be getting caught up as well, possibly caught up even worse. Gap was 1.4 seconds between the two. I think at the next timing line, that gap will be a lot more. Thank you for the follow, DCS Draymond. I greatly appreciate it. I believe that is Shuby. That is not Shuby, but I think that is the other Mustang. That is Christian B. Similar colors from the front, but not so much from the side. So Christian B getting blue flags and yielding to Griffith, who now has 1.6 seconds to try and gain to the next car ahead, the race leader of Slapshot. Train back here in P15. Shuby ahead of Nate, ahead of Peach, ahead of Marvy. And it's a Smooth Operators driver ahead of a Smooth Creamoo driver for P2 and P3, and it's a Smooth Creamoo driver ahead of a Smooth Operators driver for P17 and 18. The gap has once again grown to your mom. It did seem like Prieto was going to be going for that position very handily, but it is just not quite going to be the case. The gap growing once again between Griffith and Slapshot. Slapshot not all done yet, still has a bit more work to do, a couple laps left to go. Slapshot, the old man, he was 1 foot in the door, headed to the retirement home. Was looking to be reserved to grid walks and interviews, and is now looking to find himself back in victory lane, back in the top spot on the podium. If he can just hold on to it for 4 more minutes, about 4 more laps, possibly 3 more laps. Slapshot, previous multi-time champion, just has not been able to get the return to form that he needed. Didn't put it on pole, but brought the elbows out, and with the help from the teammate was able to get up to the front and has stayed there ever since. Again, just a little bit longer for Slapshot in the McLaren. Things are getting a bit feisty back in P15 and 16. Peach will slot in ahead of Shuby. Shuby not too worried about that, as he is running in P2 in AM with no real AM competition anywhere near. And your mom is now caught back up to Trixit. This is going to be a battle for position heading into the closing stages. Should just be 2 laps to go in this race, and the 334 of Peach gets a drive-through penalty for track limits and is going to give back all of the positions that he has tried to regain. Trixit going a bit defensive against your mom. Ouroboros just ahead. It's just barely out of sight for the overtake, but Ormiston and Ouroboros may have a bit of a battle as this race ends, and Shuby got a drive-through penalty immediately after as well. They're both going to have to come into the pit lane to serve those. And I think Peach, thinking it's probably over at this point and not very happy, has parked it for the night. The 2 getting a drive-through penalty as well. Iceberg in the Mercedes, and it is a fire sale on drive-through penalties. Your mom and Trixit now very much nose to tail. Your mom trying to find the opportunity to get past, trying to carry a bit more speed here, a bit more speed there. Lap traffic not making things very much, or very easier, or much easier for Trixit, and now possibly with a run into the penultimate corner is your mom. It's not quite going to be the run that he wanted, but still has more opportunity as we head to the final lap of this race. Slapshot leads. Griffith in P2 a long way back. Ormiston in P3 with Ouroboros just behind. Trixit in P5 with your mom just behind. Prieto in P7 with Brute just behind. We've got multiple battles for the last lap in the top 10. Ormiston and Ouroboros for the time being. Nothing really moving between those two. Same thing with Trixit and your mom. Same for Prieto and Brute. Elmo, who I believe will be taking home his first race win in AM, has just put on a dominant effort in class, but I think we may have a battle for P2. Zoanam and Sierra for P2 in AM will stay on board with that fight. Slapshot just 2 corners to go to take home the victory flash of the lights because he thinks he's got it. Out of the penultimate corner, out of the final corner, a return to form. Is this the retribution season for Slapshot? Has the fastest lap, did not get pole, but will win round 2, GoFAST Racing Season 5. Slapshot back on top. Griffith P2, Ormison will bring home P3, Ouroboros P4, Trixit P5, Your Mom P6, Prieto P7, Brute P8. Slapshot around the outside will bring home P9, Mataj will bring home P10. Adrian and Platypus, it's going to be a drag race out of the final corner, but I think Adrian has got it. Adrian P11, Platypus P12. Elmo will take home the AM win, and I believe his first in AM, and set himself up nicely for points heading into the AM Championship later this season. Francisco P14, Nate P15, Marvy P16. Giant and Langley battling into the final corners. I think Giant will have it as long as he doesn't make a mistake coming out of the final corner, and he does not. Giant P17, Langley P18. Zoanam and Sierra. Zoanam will take it P2 in AM, Sierra P3 in AM, Aramich P21 for the Team BDK mod driver. And maybe looking at some film after the end of the night tonight. Dingham P21, Schwartz P22, Shuby P23, Manelli P24, Chandler P25 with Leclerc just behind P26, YOLO Lemon P27, Lingard P28, Peachy P29 will be our final driver to cross the line on track. Your finishing order: Slapshot P1, Griffith P2, Ormiston P3. Your pro podium: Ouroboros just outside, Trixit just outside. Slap Your Mom Racing almost had the 1-2, but just not quite. So Slapshot back on top with the fastest lap. Don't go anywhere just yet. We will be finding someone to raid. And in AM, your AM podium: Elmo, Zoanam, and Sierra. And I believe that is both, that could possibly be both Elmo and Zoanam's first, that is possibly Zoanam's first podium in AM. That is Elmo's first win in AM, so congratulations to those two drivers. Congratulations to everyone who got onto the podium in their classes. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Don't go anywhere just yet. We will be finding somebody to raid. And thank you all for tuning in. Please follow if you are not. And we are going to go ahead and give whatever fool a raid real quick, as he is currently doing some racing. I believe he's at Monza right now, but I could be wrong. So again, thank you all for tuning in. We will go raid whatever fool. Make sure you give him a follow. Very cool guy, very fun stream, and I will see you all next week.